Hello everyone, and welcome to the Music Professor channel on a blisteringly hot English afternoon, which is why I've got this silly hat on. I'm just responding to an interesting question someone asked on the channel today about Eric Satie and Debussy. Why did they fall out? And what was Parade? That was the question. Parade was written in 1917 in collaboration with Jean Cocteau and Pablo Picasso, who designed the sets and the costumes, extraordinary, weird cubist costumes, absolutely enormous, very difficult to dance in. Heaven knows what it looked like actually, watching dancers moving around in these incredible sort of cubist outfits. And the music is fascinating and absolutely bizarre. There are typewriters in the score, among other weird and wonderful things. And the reason why I suspect it may have contributed to Satie and Debussy falling out was that Debussy was actually very jealous, I think, of the success of Parade in 1917, when his own ballet, Je, which is one of his greatest masterpieces, had been a total flop when it was produced as a ballet by the Ballet Russe company in 1913, completely overshadowed by the scandalous premiere of The Rite of Spring a week later. And so I think Debussy probably took that pretty hard and was a little resentful that Satie's ballet, which he didn't esteem particularly highly, had made such a big splash. There's an interesting account here by Francis Poulenc, who was there as a very young spectator, he'd been about 18, and he said it was a fine scandal. He's talking about the premiere of Parade. He says, two figures stand out on the screen of my memory. One is Apollinaire in his officer's uniform with a bandage around his forehead. So Apollinaire, a sort of godfather of surrealism, was there, loving it. And he had a bandage around his head because he'd been injured. He had a shrapnel injury in 1916, and he had this bandage around his head. There are photographs, you can see them online. And for him, for Apollinaire, it was the triumph of his artistic beliefs. Another figure, very shadowed this time, is of Debussy at the gates of death, leaving the auditorium and murmuring, perhaps, but I'm already too far from all that. So I think Debussy just felt really out of step with the new avant-garde currents. Satie was perfectly comfortable with these weird and wonderful things, but Debussy less so. And the tragedy is that their long-term friendship from the early 1890s came to an end. They stopped seeing each other. Terrible.